Good afternoon. How are you guys? Hope everybody's doing well. I wanted to do a quick video for the volleyball parents and honestly basketball parents too, and really everybody. I get these things on my mind. Like I've said a million times, 3 years ago, if you told me that we would be this heavily involved with the volleyball community, I would have definitely been shocked. But here we are, and honestly, I love it. It's a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun to work with. They work hard. It's just really cool. But with that, I have a ton of volleyball players and volleyball parents that I follow on Instagram now. I get to see all stories, and everybody's playing JO ball right now. I think that's what it's called. I'm still learning the terminology. And there's a lot of videos that I get to see of these girls, especially when they're serving, when they're like the different scenarios where they're jumping in the game. And a very common thing that I'm seeing is knee valgus that's going on. And as we all know, knee injuries are the number one. That's by far and away, statistically, I believe it or not, I've looked all this stuff up, and statistically that is the number one injury that occurs in volleyball players. Ironically, the second one is shoulder injuries and stuff, which is in my wheelhouse. Sorry, I almost choked on my gum. So what I'm seeing with this knee valgus and stuff is it's an easy fix. The problem is most people just don't know what it is. They don't know to spot it, and it just, once you see it, it glares at you, and it really bothers me because A, it's an easy fix, and the thing that really bothers me is none of us have a crystal ball, obviously. I get really annoyed. There's a guy in Louisiana that some of you that have a baseball player, a higher level, y'all may be aware of him. I won't name his name, but I think he's a pretty big, I don't know, he's pretty, he's ballsy. He goes on his YouTube channel and he predicts injuries in professional baseball players, and I think that's just, really, it just bothers me. It really bothers me, and I'm not the only one. We'll leave it at that. But obviously we don't have a crystal ball, but it is well documented that knee valgus, what I'm talking about, and I'm about to show you a little bit on the whiteboard, is one of the easiest, or it leads to there is more correlation with knee valgus stress and knee injury than any other movement issue that you see in athletes. So if there is a movement pattern, which when I say movement pattern, I'm talking about if I see somebody walking down the street and they walk like this, obviously I'd be willing to bet they have back pain, right? And that's a movement pattern. They're moving it's a faulty movement pattern. Everybody has movement patterns. It's kind of like diet. A diet doesn't mean that you're eating bad or eating, good. It just means that everybody has a diet. Unless you literally never eat, then you have a diet. It's just whether it's a healthy diet or a bad diet or whatever. Same thing. Movement patterns, you have faulty movement patterns, you have good movement patterns. When you see somebody with good posture, they have a good movement pattern. So this knee valgus thing is a bad movement pattern, and you see it. I'm talking about at least 8 out of every 10 females that walk in the door up here. They do this, and it especially occurs in your longer, taller females that have these long femurs, which the femur is this bone right here, and which obviously by just natural selection they end up playing sports like volleyball and basketball. So what you've got is, and if you've watched my videos before, I'm always paranoid that I'm on camera. Okay, so if you've watched my videos before, I'll get up here and I make really horrible drawings on the whiteboard. But basically what you've got with knee valgus, if this right here, just imagine, obviously, like I said, really bad. This is the femur right here, and we're looking at a front view of the person right here, and this is the what the tibia right here coming down. All right, so this is basically your knee right here, okay? And this is somebody standing up normal. You know, we're looking at them front on right here. All right, valgus stress is when the knees collapse in like this, basically. All right, and you see it if you watch. If you have a volleyball player, watch her when she jumps, especially the ones that are really long-legged and the ones that are not necessarily that strong. And if you're seeing their knees collapse, what's happening is, all right, you saw the normal, that's the normal one right there. All right. You got this, and now you can see where I'm going with this. The knees have these, basically these straps, the ACL. You've all heard that. You've all heard about the ACL. You know, you've got the MCL. All right, MCL right here, right around in there. And I mean, obviously, anybody with a really good grasp on anatomy can take me to task over this, and I get that, but I'm just simplifying. So you can obviously see the problem right here with valgus stress. The knee is meant to swing. It's just meant to hinge like this. It is not supposed to go in and out, you know, like it's not supposed to do that, you know, like it's supposed to hinge. And so when you have valgus stress, imagine these are the knees right here. You can see where there's a problem because the knee is not supposed to have this gap right here. It has a little gap that is held together by some really cool, intricate straps that God in his infinite wisdom designed, but that right there, it's not equipped for. You know, like the only body part you see that type of mobility in is the shoulder, and you know, that's it. We give up a lot to be able to have a lot with our shoulder. That's why we can do all kinds of stuff. You know, like we don't get that kind of range of motion in our knee, right? And so what you've got to do is you've got to strengthen the hamstrings. We see a lot of girls that come in, these quads are huge, and you know, their butts just aren't very big, their hamstrings aren't very big. They've squatted a lot, and the problem is the ones that are being made to work out at school or in JO or whatever. And I have to put this disclaimer in. This is not the school coach's fault, okay? If I had 50 kids that I was in charge of, and my job was to win games and to understand the game of volleyball, like it's not the coach's job. Like they're doing the very best they can. So understand that I am not in any way, shape, or form blaming the school coach or anything. They're just trying to make their kids as good as they can, you know, as best as that. So they go in the weight room and they squat, which those girls need to be squatting. They absolutely need to be under a barbell getting stronger. But what happens is you've got these huge groups of kids, and these girls, when they squat, the bar's on their back or they're front squatting, and when they squat, when they come down and when they come back up, when the load is the worst, like when the load is the heaviest, these knees will collapse in like that. And I mean, unless you've got a strength coach standing there watching for that, you're not going to catch it. You know, I mean, it's just not going to. Well, what happens is over time they get better and better at their hips letting their knees get in this position right here. And eventually, I mean, as you can see, that's not going to stand for long. Your knees are not going to be able to put up with that for long. So what you have to do to combat that, it's really simple. The easiest way, it depends on how, it's just like everything else, it depends on how in depth you want to go to combat it. Obviously the best case scenario is to get in here or get a qualified strength coach, somebody who knows what they're doing with a grasp of functional anatomy and all that type of stuff that can help your daughter or your athlete. There's guys that do it too, but it's way more prevalent in females. But just somebody to make sure that your kid's squat pattern is good. That's the very first, that's the best assessment you can do for this other than watching them jump. If they squat and if they have a tendency for this to happen, believe me, their knees are going to collapse in. It's going to happen. So you got to get somewhere. Obviously, that's the best case scenario. I get that not everybody has that kind of time. Believe me, not everybody has the type of resources to pay for it. And I understand that. That's totally okay, and you're not, you know, completely out of luck on that. If you don't use, you know, a strength coach or something, all you need to do, it's better than nothing for sure. We use these things, called synergy bands, little resistance loops like this, and you can get these. Obviously we have about 40 of them, but you only need 1 or 2. This is different resistance. This is the heaviest, medium, and this is a lighter one. And there are a ton of exercises you can do. You can get these at Academy Sports. I think you can get 3 of them for about $12, I think. The main thing that we do with them, and it's pretty cool because it's perfect. It's a perfect warm up for them as well. So you kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You just have them monster walk. And so what you do with that, when a person is monster walking, they just take this thing and put it over their knees here. Depending on how strong they are, if they're really weak or how heavy the band is, you can kind of just feel it out. They're both really good. Put the band right here around their knees, and then to make it a little bit harder, if you want to make it harder, you can put it right around their ankles. But what you do is you have them spread that band apart as wide as they'll go, and they just walk just like that. And it's difficult to say, like, at first you're just like, eh. And in about 10 or 15 feet, you'll change your mind. And then obviously there are all kinds of things, side shuffles, backwards walk, big steps, lunges, all kinds of stuff you can do to build these adductors and abductors on the outsides and insides of those legs to help stabilize. It's not so much about performance, but it's about stabilizing that knee. Or I should say, it's not so much. It's not like this training is necessarily building these huge muscles or anything. It's really just about stabilization. We're teaching the muscles that help to stabilize the knee. Like I say, in God's grand design, our muscles are just casts. They're moving casts for our bones, and that's what our muscles do. They protect our joints and our bones. And so when a muscle is detrained and doesn't know how to activate quickly and doesn't know how to work, then it leaves the joint that it's its responsibility. It leaves that joint vulnerable, okay? And so that's what we're doing in the weight room. That's what we're doing with all these, stuff like this. The other thing you can do with these bands is you can have them put them on their knees. If you're not real comfortable, if you don't have a coach or something that you can go to ask, hey, is my daughter's knees collapsing like that? All you gotta do is put this band on their knees and have them perform a squat. If this thing gets looser like that, then they're exhibiting a little bit of knee valgus. Some's worse than others, and there are some people that feel like a little bit is to be expected, and I get that, but yeah, a little bit is to be expected because you do have in females a lot of times the muscular capacity is a little bit weaker, but at the same time a gap on the outside of the knee or the inside of the knee is never okay. So I don't feel like you can allow for there's not much knee valgus you can go, oh well, that's just normal. Like if that knee is collapsing in at all when they hit the ground or when they go to accelerate on a jump, then to me it's concerning. Now whether the amount of concern you want to put on that is up to you, but if I see any at all, I attack it on any of our athletes up here. I go after it, with these bands and squats and deadlifts and things like that. So I think that was everything I was going to cover with that. Oh, well, the other thing I was going to say was, everybody, you might have heard the saying before that it's a lot easier to sell pain pills than it is vitamins. And so, I know every one of you guys are interested in protecting your daughters, or if you're a player or an athlete and you're interested in this, and I understand it. But one thing you need to understand is every volleyball player wants to increase their vertical jump. It's just like velocity in baseball. Everybody wants to throw and hit harder, right? Well, every volleyball player that walks in here, that's the first thing they ask about: vertical jump, vertical jump, vertical jump. Well, let me ask you this. If you have knees that look like this, or even a little bit outside of your toes in that direction, right? When you jump, because you're propelling the ground away from you, basically. You're propelling yourself away from the ground. which one of these sets of knees which one of those are going to propel the ground away faster or harder? You know, you're losing power in the space right here that your knees traveled from here to here. You're dumping power. You're dumping that propulsion capability. And so, you know, I mean, yes, everybody wants to stay healthy, but everybody wants to perform better when they're not hurt, right? Well, understand that not only will this help to prevent injuries, this will help to increase vertical jump. If you clean this up, they're immediately propelling themselves off of the ground harder, which is what every one of them want. So the other things you can do, you can YouTube this and I'll do a video on it, is any type of hamstring and glute activation exercise, any of it. Some of you parents remember the Thigh Master that Suzanne Summers had many years ago. Well, she was actually, if she was around now, she wouldn't be marketing to that. She would be marketing to female athletes. She would be marketing to people that are needing to build their kids' glutes and hamstrings, because that actually was really good stuff for building this area for athletes to prevent this knee valgus. If she had a good marketing director, anyways, I guess she would be. But anyhow, those type of exercises, you can do them. Just remember those Suzanne Summers exercises with these bands and the Thigh Master. The Thigh Master, that's what that thing was called. You can take that and you can do those type of exercises with those bands, and actually you'll do a lot of good for your daughter. So hopefully that helps. The other thing I was going to talk about real quick, I had a question last week about pre-game and pre-practice nutrition. Understand this. Anytime you're talking about nutrition with kids, you're talking about damage control. For the most part, 99 out of 100, 9 out of 10. Like, I call it a win if I can keep them from eating from a gas station, you know, and like if I can get a kid to say, okay, no more gas station food, I'll call that a victory, all right? So first off, if you can get them something from the grocery store rather than at the gas station, that's your first step right there. No gas station food. And I mean, I realize that's not like high level instruction, but I mean, I live in the real world, right? So no gas station food, all right? Avoid high sugars, which we all knew already, because they're just gonna crash and get sad and all that. If I was going to, depending on how picky your eater is, the best all-around option that I would consider kid-friendly is PB&J. I realize that you're not going to get a kid to eat a snack of salmon and asparagus before they go to practice. I don't even eat that. I hate asparagus actually, but I hate vegetables, honestly. I just grind them up and put them in a blender. PB&J is my best option. You can use some lower sugar, some organic jelly. That's, you know, just a half a piece of bread, just, you know, folded together. I would call that your best option. If you can't, chocolate milk is really awesome for kids. If you can get them to drink chocolate milk, which shouldn't be a problem, that's a really good option. If they're just not big eaters, you know, that's a really good option. That's a really good option for kids to drink after a workout too, and after games, especially these kids that are practicing and playing right now, and then they're coming in here and working out and they're just smashed all the time. That's a really good option to keep some chocolate milk. The other one for like the hard gainers, if you've got a kid that is very little and they need to gain weight, you need to understand, chill out with the mega shakes, because that's what everybody says. Peanut butter and ice cream and all this like massive 5 million calorie shakes, that's great in theory, but the problem is what you're going to do with that kid. They're already a picky eater. They're already not a big eater. So what they're going to do is they're going to take that and they're not going to eat again for 24 hours. And that is the worst way to put on weight. Like, if you're trying to get somebody to gain weight, they need to eat every 3 hours. Very small amounts. It doesn't have, you just have to keep their insulin levels up, not getting carried away with all these mega shakes and all that stuff. So how do you do that? The best tip I can give you, you're looking for the most calories per bite. All right, the best example of that I can give you, I know you're thinking peanut butter, you're close, but peanut butter is still very filling, and we don't want filling. We don't want them to feel full, right? So the best option is almonds, in my opinion. 1,000 calories in the palm of your hand, right? They can take that, keep it in their locker, in their bag. They don't even have to eat, I'm talking like a small handful, but you tell them, look, you can't go more than 3 hours without eating. And that's the main rule. Not saying they have to eat a meal, just say, listen, little Johnny, all you gotta do is just reach in here, pop those in your mouth, tell them Mike said to do it, and that way it won't be coming from you, and you might get a little bit better adherence to it. And they don't even feel like they ate anything, and that's the best part. Like, you want to avoid being full. So give that a try. That's I've had a lot of good success with that, because like I said, they can still eat their normal meals, and they're adding in supplemental calories and supplemental intake that will help them to put on the weight that they're needing. So give that a try. Hopefully that'll spur some more questions, so I'll know what you guys are wanting to hear about. Like I told y'all before, if you got an overhead athlete, I'm supposed to plug my products. Get on an overhead athlete, give me a shout. I'll get you hooked up with a set of those bands and a routine to do with them. If you got a volleyball, swimmer, baseball, quarterback, tennis, anything that does a sport above their head, they need to be on a band routine, whether you buy them from me or not. You need to take care of their shoulders. So let me know if that spurs any more questions, and I'll be hopefully doing another video Thursday. I appreciate you guys watching.